In our ever-connected world, we're constantly sharing our thoughts, our experiences, but sometimes our greatest impact can come from sharing the things that we know. These are the things we've learned, lessons we've grown from, and passions we've mastered. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen. People around the world are now sharing their knowledge as their body of work, building their credibility, their freedom of time, their way to earn an income, and for some, it's their legacy for the world. It becomes a manifestation where their imagination met creation, and what is most exciting about this time is that this movement is for everyone, because everyone is a creator. Everyone has a skill and knowledge they can share. No, they must share. No matter your location, your background, your story, your experiences, everyone can do this. You can teach the things you love and be able to impact the lives of others. You can teach the things that may seem simple to you and be able to grow a community around your work. You can create, inspire, follow your dreams, and change the norm. So we welcome you, the new creators, our next creators. Let this be your platform, because if there's one thing we know, it's that nothing is impossible and everything is teachable. We are live. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can see me, you can hear me. I'm so excited for today's panel because I think we're going to be talking about something that I've been seeing over and over again in the chat, which is you're probably sitting here, you're a coach, or you're doing some form of in-person work, and you're like, okay, this sounds great. I definitely want to start taking my work online, but how do I actually create that into an online course and into an online curriculum? And we were joined with some incredible creators who've done just that. So first of all, type into the chat, let me know where you are tuning in from. If this is your first session of the summit, your second, your third. I know there is some people who have been here for every single one. We've had 3 separate summits, and for some reason you guys have been here for each event, which is so great to see. I see we've got Salt Lake City, Bellingham, Samuel's been here, or Bridget's been here for every single one. Fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to today's panel, and we're joined with an incredible lineup of people. And I think just to start, it'd be great to do a round robin style intro. So I'd love it if each of our panelists, if you could share who you are and a little bit around the work that you're doing and your courses. And Cara, we will start with you.
Oh, hi, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Cara Stevens, and I'm the founder of The Frugal Feminista, which is a financial wellness platform for women, helping them heal their relationship with money, save so they can live life on their own terms unapologetically. And I'm the creator of a few courses on the Teachable platform, one of which is called The Wealthy Woman's Blueprint, and the other which is called 60 Days to Slay Sally Mae, which is teaching you how to really accelerate your student loan repayment plan without sacrificing, joy and, minimizing the depletion in your bank account.
Love it. So great to have you here. And next we have Miss Alana.
Hi, my name is Alana Kaivalya, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. I am the founder of the Kaivalya Yoga Method Academy, the Upward Facing Business Academy, and the Modern Mystics Academy, all of which are hosted on Teachable. I've been a yoga instructor and teacher trainer for 20 years and moved my business entirely online about 5 years ago. So I have a 500-hour online yoga teacher training, as well as a professional course that teaches other teachers how to go online with their work.
And also, a really quick fun fact with Alana, you were actually, I had mentioned we had someone who joined one of our first summits and then ended up coming back as a speaker a few times. So it's come full circle. Great to have you here, Alana.
Absolutely.
And next we have David.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm David, all the way from France. Happy to be here. I'm the founder of a website called masterthehandpan.com. What is a handpan? I have it right next to me. It's this UFO shaped instrument, beautiful. So we have a lot of content and online courses. And I'm also hosting other great, awesome players, master classes.
Yeah, I have to say, David, when we first, so this is something, just so you know, at Teachable, we love seeing all the different topics people have courses on. And when someone said there's someone who's a course on the handpan, the first question everyone had was, what's a handpan? So it's so cool. Yeah, exactly. It's a new instrument. I think it was invented in like early 2000s. So great to have you here. And next we have And next we have Gillian. Welcome.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Gillian Perkins, and I'm the founder of Startup Society. I teach aspiring entrepreneurs and new online business owners a simple and strategic system for scaling their businesses and turning it into something that they can actually do full-time and support themselves doing. I also host a popular YouTube channel all about entrepreneurship and success, and so I teach a course called Channel Launch that teaches people how to get views on YouTube and grow their channels.
So excited to have each of you here. And I love that everyone has very different niches and backgrounds and experiences. So I hope that there's going to be a speaker here that resonates with you watching tonight. Now, I think when we've been going through the summit, we've been talking about creating your course. And I think if you're a coach, it's an interesting process to go through, because you now all of a sudden have to think of, how do I do the thing that I do? Right? We're so used to just working with people in person and just kind of teaching them. But when you have to put that into an online curriculum, that can be a little bit challenging. And so I would love to know for you, Cara, with your courses, these are topics that are pretty big topics, and there's so many things that you could cover inside of them. What was your process for deciding what your course transformation was going to be for your students?
Well, I knew that, say, for example, with the Wealthy Women's Blueprint, that I wanted to offer them, the transformation was understanding who they were and the client that they were at the beginning of the journey, and what they needed to know to get them to the person that they wanted to be. And so that meant breaking it up into chunkable, bite-sized bits of information over the course of time. So I just decided to work backwards and say, who are they going to be by the end of this course? And then that allowed me to break it down into different bends, so to speak, or different arcs of instruction. And then each of those arcs created one part of the transformation, and then all the details behind it. And then the next arc created the second part, the transformation, all the details behind it. So I thought and did a backwards planning approach to think about who should they emerge as by the end of their time with me, and thinking about the structures and the steps along the way.
So you bring up an interesting point around this idea of bite-sized chunks. What does that mean for your courses? Is there a certain time frame that you have for your videos, or how can someone also kind of replicate those smaller chunks of information in their course?
I think that my background, in addition to being the Frugal Feminista, I was an assistant principal and an instructional leader and a pedagogue. So I think about learners and their different styles of learning. Most people, especially when you're learning something new, are not able to retain lots of information in one sitting. And oftentimes, one way or one method of approaching it is not always going to be as effective. So offering them various ways to approach the content, whether it be through a video or through uploading possibly a case study, or through possibly a PowerPoint, or through an interview. What I do is I think in terms of starting with a question. So let's say, for example, with the 60 Days to Slay Sally Mae, the first part of the course is helping you understand what statistics or what stats do you need in order to actually prepare yourself to repay your student loans. And so there are a number of questions that you may have to ask around what's an interest rate, what are the different types of programs. So I start with that question in mind, answer that one particular question, and then that becomes the duration of the content. So sometimes it may be, if it's something as small as an interest rate, you give a definition of an interest rate, and then possibly the next set of content will be examples of interest rates on various loans. If, say, one section is loans, you can't go talking about all the different types of loans. So that would be one section, but the different parts of the content will be the names of the loans, and then what each loan is and some of the details around them. So making it chunkable. So if you think about like an overarching idea, and then the small questions that can be answered in 3 to 5 minutes, possibly sometimes 7 minutes the max for me in a lot of ways, that can give you a framework of maybe there's more than one question that is being answered in that section, and then that can move to a different section or different clip on its own.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think it's so interesting when you start to create your curriculum. It's like you kind of take for advantage, like, oh, I already know what this term is, but not everyone might already know what that is. So you have to think of like what other information can I include to really like to share this information. Now, when it comes to creating your content, Alana, you are someone who has literally hundreds of hours worth of video training. And I would love to know, because your background is in yoga and you had yoga classes and you taught yoga teachers, what was the transition from taking your offline work online? Like, how did you structure that content and that curriculum?
It was actually really exciting. I had been training yoga teachers in a studio setting since 2003, and doing it all over the world in studios around the country. And in all of that time, I actually ran into some issues with studio training that I was never quite satisfied with. One of the things that Kara pointed out was that, some people don't learn well when they're just given a ton of information over a long block of time. I call it drinking from the fire hose. And oftentimes the yoga teacher training is like that. You show up at Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and you're not done until 6 or 7 p.m. and you've sat there listening to lecture after lecture after lecture all day long. People don't retain the information very well. And then also, when it's an in-person training or an in-studio training, if you miss a portion of it, there was no way to make that up. Trainings often happen over the weekend, and so if students missed one weekend, that was effectively missing about 10 or 20% of your entire program. That's a lot of curriculum missed, and there's just no way to make that up, really. And then the other thing too was that in a studio setting, I wasn't able to actually see each of my students do their work. I couldn't see all of them teach. If you've got 20 students, for example, if they're all supposed to teach a 60-minute class, that's over 20 hours already that you're committing to try to see all of them teach. It's just, there's no way timing-wise to do that. So I was excited to actually resolve those problems by going online. I didn't have any time limits for my lectures. Oftentimes, I would be cut short on a lecture because there was another class coming in behind me and I couldn't answer all the questions or get to something really important. And of course, the next day you just have to move on. So there was a lot missing. There were a lot of things that I wanted to tie up and do better as I moved my program online. And as an academic, as I was getting my doctorate, I did online courses as a part of my PhD program, and I kept thinking to myself, my goodness, if I can earn a PhD with online courses, we can certainly train yoga teachers. So that's actually the way that I run my online yoga training, is I treat it as a higher education and really make sure that not only do I give the students all the content that they need to become the best teachers possible, but that I'm putting accountability measures along the way to ensure that they are learning. And of course, being online, they can do this work on their own time, at their own pace. It's really brilliant. So I say all this because those of you out there who are used to teaching in an in-person or an in-studio setting, of course, now our world is different as of about a week ago, and things have changed. And if you haven't thought of going online, or it's been a bit of a hurdle, or you've been reticent to try it, what I can tell you is actually that there may be many ways in which you can actually create a better learning experience by bringing your information online. And that was something that I was really excited and proud of seeing and doing.
Yeah, it's actually so fascinating to see what people are now doing online. And I think it's important to note that, like, we are in a very interesting time right now. But I think for any type of person doing in-person training, like, we're in no way saying that you need to completely go online, but just by introducing that into your business model, it's incredible how much you can scale, how you can expand your reach by doing that. Now, I'd like to move on to you, David, with the work that you're doing with the handpan, because you were doing coaching and you were performing, and I would love to know, like, why did you transition into doing online courses, especially with an instrument that was maybe relatively new to a lot of people?
Yes, thank you. This instrument has been created in 2001, and I was one of the first very French guy who got one in 2004. And at that time, it was even hard to find someone who was playing this instrument. And during the following years, I met different people, and these instruments to be known. And I've loved to, to share what I was learning with some other people. So I was just being a musician. I was on stages. I was traveling all over the world, and then I saw many and many other people starting playing this instrument. So I started just to do one-on-one, lessons. Then I started to do workshops, groups. Then some festival of this instrument happened. So I went to this festival. I got invited. I was teaching and teaching. Then I got a lot of demand. I got married. And so I kept trying to satisfy everyone, doing some Skype lessons, some everything, but I was overwhelmed by the demand. And I was like, rather than traveling all the time, I should find a way to equip as many people as I can. So I decided to just to shoot, to video everything I knew about this instrument. And I started to do online courses, just to figure out a way to help people. My goal, my mission was to help and to equip all these people, because back like 5 years ago, there was only two, three, four teachers like known. So we were traveling all over the world, in China, in the US, everywhere, to teach this instrument. It was totally new.
And so how did you choose what your course was going to be about? Because I imagine like you could do like learn how to play the handpan. Was there a specific like technique you were teaching? How did you decide like what that first course was going to be?
Yeah, my first course was designed for beginners, because I know that buys course most of the time there are beginners. They just got this instrument, they can play a little bit, and then they are how do you say, staying in their comfort zone, always playing the same things over and over. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab their hands and I'm gonna start from zero. Like, hey, this is called a hand pen. Because guys, you have to keep in mind it was unknown. This is called a hand pen. Here is how it works. It's not a chromatic instrument, it's diatonic. You have to put it on your knees. You play with your hands. You have to position the notes this way, how to touch it, how to make a sound, how to climb the scale, descend the scale. So I really designed a course step by step, from how to sit, how to touch, how to ascend and descend the scale, how to understand rhythms, their structure, how to create your first rhythms, your second one, how to implement, how to add notes and stuff and everything. So really step by step, I designed the whole course.
It's great. I also think we were talking about this earlier, but when you have your courses, especially if you're developing the curriculum for beginners, I think a lot of the times it's exciting for teachers, because then you can start to focus on more advanced things when you're working with people in person, and you can start to see all the other options that are out there. So one of I think this was last year in our summit, Gillian, you were there and you shared the most memorable quote that I to this day repeat, and I don't know where you heard it from. I know you know what I'm about to say. It's that happy students don't recommend your products, successful ones do. And I think that speaks to courses, it speaks to products, it speaks to even services. And so what I'd love to dive into with you is, how do we increase our student retention rate and their success rate as they're going through the curriculum?
Yeah, well, first of all, that is just so true. I think I first heard that from Pat Flynn, but I'm not exactly sure. We could give him the credit, though. So, I mean, obviously, it is so true that if your students are just satisfied with your course, they just had a good experience, they're not going to go and tell people about that. That's not mention worthy. But what is mention worthy is if they got a result and other people see that they got the result, and then they ask them, their friends ask them, wow, this is so cool. How did you do this? Or they're excited about something in their life, so they share it with their friends, they share it on social media. That is how you get these referrals. But you're asking more in general, I think, about retention rate. And this is something that we actually were really recently working on with Startup Society, our main program. So we noticed, we've been running the program for about 2 years or so now. And so we have a lot of data at this point about like churn rate and whenever someone leaves, of course, we're asking them why they left and if there's anything we could have done to make the program better. And we're also asking all of our active members constantly, like, how can we serve you better? What's holding you back? Just constantly surveying them and interacting with them. And what we discovered was that there was a certain point where a lot of people were getting stuck. Now, because this is a program that is really designed for beginners, people who are just getting started with an online business, and so we anticipated that we would have a lot of people who were just starting, maybe hadn't even started yet joining the program. But when we initially designed the curriculum, we masterminded the whole thing and we plotted it all out, and we designed this curriculum to take them from point A to point B, this transformation. And we thought, like, logically it seemed like it would work. But once we had the data, we saw the students going through it, we were able to notice that so many people, if they left, they probably left at around the same time, about 1 month into the program. And so we looked into why. And what we discovered was that a lot of people were leaving for one of two reasons. Either they left because they'd started the program wanting to start a business, but they hadn't gotten enough support with that part of the process, so they left the program, which of course makes complete sense. And while we thought that, of course, some people would start in that position, and we gave them some initial materials and instruction to get past that point, we didn't anticipate that it was going to be 50% of the people who joined hadn't yet started their businesses. And so we saw that of those 50% of people who joined, who hadn't started their business, half of those people didn't even know what kind of business they wanted to start. And we hadn't devoted any curriculum space to deciding which business to start, because we assumed that if someone was joining the program, that they would at least have an idea. And so by really analyzing our students' experiences, we were able to correct that problem and greatly improve our retention rates just by giving them more support where they needed it. The other area that we noticed the other reason why people were giving us that they were leaving was because they didn't have time to implement the program. Now, this was a really fun problem to solve because it was actually already solved, and the problem wasn't what they thought the problem was. They thought they didn't have time, but the problem was actually that we hadn't communicated to them how little time it needed to take them. We had designed the program to take a very small amount of time each week because we assumed that they were busy, working some job to support themselves or already running their business, and they didn't have a whole lot of time to actually devote to learning how to improve their business, to learning how to take it to the next level. So we were able to completely solve this problem just by changing the wording in our welcome sequence, in our onboarding sequence, so that they better understood how little time they needed to devote to the program each week.
I think you bring up a really important point, which is the importance of, and we're going to circle back to this too, because I know you do such great analysis on your launches, but the importance of looking through the landscapes, looking at what is happening, what is working, what isn't. And I think there's a lot that you can learn. So we're definitely going to circle back to that because I have many questions around this topic. But as far as becoming a coach or being a coach, the idea of now creating courses, it seems like it's almost a conflict of interest, right? You're like, well, if I teach someone how to do the thing that I normally teach them to do in person, doesn't that make my services obsolete? Doesn't that mean that no one's going to want to work with me one-on-one because, well, they can just do the course? And Cara, as someone who has both your coaching and you do speaking and you have your courses, have you found that incorporating courses has changed that dynamic? Has it actually increased your in-person sessions?
I think they each kind of feed into each other. So, for example, I think Alana had spoken about you can't, as a speaker or doing something in person, be able to reach everyone. And so, for example, as a speaker, it's one day, a couple of hours. But if you offer the people in your audience the opportunity to work with you again in a coaching capacity online, it gives them another opportunity to have extended time with you, to have more of their questions answered. And it's actually more of a closer touch, because when you speak to one to many, You are not necessarily responsible to doing something once, completing the executing, and then leaving. But when you're able to incorporate your audience as now your students, or as now closer to you, and having more interaction with you, it actually enhances the experience for many of them. And then oftentimes, if you're doing even like group work, and then they have even deeper questions, and they realize that the coaching itself lends itself to one-on-one coaching because they have particular needs that aren't necessarily being met by the curriculum, or that they just love it so much that they realize that they want more one-on-one attention. And so they all kind of feed into each other. And sometimes what I've seen is that my speaking engagements have led to, at the corporate level or employee wellness level, being able to offer them access to those resources as an add-on. So everything kind of plays and supports each other.
And did you change, so when you're structuring your pricing, was there like a natural progression from your courses to your in-person coaching to, like, was there a natural progression there? Do you decide, like, my courses will be this much cheaper than the in-person session? How did you decide what the price points were?
Well, I started first with speaking. And so depending on who the client was, well, in general, I have pricing for corporate clients and then for non-for-profits because they have a smaller budget. So in terms of the value added for the group coaching, because it's depending on the budget, of course, from the corporate or from the nonprofit, had to be considered. But when thinking about the group courses, I thought of those at the individual level. But offering those two to the corporation in bulk numbers created a sense of added value for not the corporation themselves, but their employees. So the pricing was always like the speaking would be the the highest investment because of who the actual owners of the budget were, to giving them the opportunity to offer these things to their employees or to their constituents, and then offering that opportunity for the constituents as well in a way that was affordable and at a accessible level.
Yeah, that's a nice thing too with when you start to incorporate all these different things in your business model. It's like you're not reliant on one stream of income. You've got your courses, the speaking, the coaching. And so it's like you can do it all still, but it just kind of balances things out, or you have a bit of a safety net. Now, when it comes to enrolling students, I mean, there's so many marketing strategies out there. I mean, we could have an entire 2-hour panel on just like all of the marketing strategies that you each have tried. But one of the ones that I find very interesting that you've used, Alana, is webinars. And I mean, I know you've really scaled your efforts with webinars. Could you kind of share one, like how you're incorporating webinars to sell your courses? And also, have you had to shift the way that you sell them depending on your niche or your audience?
You know, I love webinars. Yeah, they are the number one way that I reach people, that I sell my courses. They are an invaluable tool and resource. And I use the webinars, you know, in a different way, I think, than most internet marketers do, because my audience is very different. Yoga teachers, yoga students, they're looking for something a little bit different. They want a real personal touch. They want to get to know me. And they want, as closely as possible, the in-person or in-studio experience to be replicated. And I have found that the best way to do that is through webinars. On a webinar, they can see me, I can talk directly to them, they can get a taste for what my teaching is like. I usually on a webinar will actually teach them something so that they feel like they've gotten some good content as a part of that webinar. And I'm very transparent on my webinars to tell them that this is going to be about one of my online courses. There's no like hidden agenda or bait and switch. I actually bring people onto the webinar to say, hey, come learn more about this course that I think will really benefit you. And so they do. So I walk them through the course. Yoga students and teachers tend to also be a little skeptical of online learning. So I put their minds at ease and share with them lots of testimonials and how this course works and exactly how I will help them through it, exactly the resources that they have, the mentors that will support them as a part of this process. So it took a lot of trial and error for me, because a lot of the techniques out there that I learned initially just didn't work exactly for my audience. So I had to, do it many different times to figure out exactly what my audience wanted to hear. But At this point, they're a wonderful resource for me, for my students, and I highly recommend that you give them a try, especially for those of you who, like me, are used to teaching in person, are used to teaching in a studio setting. This is a great way to usher your students online with you.
And are webinars something that you're doing every single week? Do you have ways to automate them? What are some of the options to someone who's looking to do that themselves?
So I recommend, if you are starting webinars, that you start by doing them live, that you start by actually sitting there with your audience, bringing people onto the webinar and doing them live so you can see the comments, you can see the feedback, and then you do it over and over again to really hone your skills. I did this for my online teacher training for about a year. Every Wednesday night, it was me and my webinar and all of the attendees. And it really got me clear on what my students needed to hear in order to feel comfortable buying the course, enrolling in the course. And eventually I did move to an automated and evergreen model, which is great because now it allows people to take the webinar or view the webinar whenever they want on their own time. They don't have to wait until Wednesday night at 8 p.m. when I'm here. They can do it whenever they sign up, and it makes it so much easier. And plus, it allows me to scale my business and automation, and that evergreen mechanism I'm a huge fan of it. I use it for all my programs and courses now, but it took some time to get there for sure.
Yeah, and I think, we've seen this consistently. It's like trial and error with Gillian, what you were saying of like looking at your launches, what is working, what isn't. And I think it's really important to stress that when you are launching your first course, that it's not necessarily going to be a home run. You might exceed your goal, you might miss your goal. But either way, I think it is important just to go in with like an open mind and just to see like what can you do next. And I find sales funnels and like marketing strategies so interesting, especially hearing the different niches and industries that people are working in, because it always seems to have like slight adjustments or slight differences. And so, David, I would love to know for you, like, what is your process for selling your course? So like, if we were to go to your website, what is that first point of contact? And then how do you lead people to the option to purchase your course?
Yes. So if you ever go to the website, you can a free course for you to check out all the different master classes that the website is hosting. And if you try this free course, you will end up in a funnel. And so you will get the whole free course, like 10 videos for you. Enjoy them. And aside of this, parallel to that, I will send you mails every 2-3 days. Hey, how are you doing with the course? Another tips, another trick, everything, blah, 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 blah. And then at a moment, I will show you also what is cool with learning this instrument and my online course is that you can access to a community and everything, blah, blah, blah. And at a moment, I will sell you with a great discount the course, and I will show you my goal for you with this instrument. But I just leave the people enjoying a free course. They don't hear for me for 3 days. And first email, how are you doing? How is it going with the course? How can I help you? Let me know. I have a few goodies for you. And then 2 days after, hey, I want to talk to you about another tool designed to help people to learn this instrument. It's a community of people. And then after this email, another one answering some questions they might be wondering, can I learn this instrument if I don't have the same scale as you, the same number of notes and everything? And then, I just give them content. I show them that I'm coaching them. I'm not just an online done with me. I don't want to be done with you. I want to follow you and help you. So I show them all the things aside of this online course. And at a moment, I'm like, okay, how did you like the course so far? I have the whole curriculum available for you. Here is the transformation it will do for, and you can buy right now. And I have deadline funnel that is helping a lot. And that's the main thing, free course. And I learned something is to be generous a lot, and I'm giving a lot to people. And also I work on SEO a lot on SEO through blogging. And the way I found is just help people, love them, help them answer their question work hard and give them the content they need. And I love the sentence, maybe the one from Pat Flynn, and I've say, when something work, you're talking about it. When you're done with the course, you're talking. How do you behave with a book? When you're done with the book, you just want to talk about it, if it was a good one, and to grab another one. So I really help my student to complete the course. So I send them emails once they buy a course. I'm helping them through blog posts, through the community online. I help them to finish the course. First, because it's good for them, for the skills they will learn, and I want them to reach the next level. Then I know that we're all the same. When we're done with something, we want the next one. It's like with a book, with a good book. We're talking about it and we want to read another. So I try to work with different channel, and also for sure YouTube. As I'm a musician first, I keep playing, and also I keep going to some shows, events, festivals around the world. I try not to do a lot, show that, hey, your teacher is still playing good.
Yeah. No, that's so nice to hear you say that, because I think this is a theme that we've seen show up in every single summit we do, the importance of giving value upfront, regardless of if your customers purchase from you or not. And I think a lot of the times it can feel counterintuitive. Like, why would I do that? Like, if I give it away for free, why would anyone purchase from me? But it's actually the opposite. Tenfold. So I want to kind of circle back, and there's some really great questions here in the chat. So please type your questions in for our panelists. And there's a really great one from Elena that we're going to definitely come back to. But I do want to also circle back to you, Gillian, and how you analyze your launches, because it's so important. I think even if we launch and we end up making like $2,000 and we're thrilled, we're like, wow, I couldn't even imagine that this would happen. We don't know if we could have even made more, right? So it's important to still analyze the results of your launch. And I'd love to know from you, Gillian, what is your approach and how would you advise people do that?
So I'm someone who isn't the most skilled, maybe skilled is the wrong word. I'm not very good at tracking things because I have like an entrepreneurial spirit and I want to charge forward to the next thing. And so analysis, it's not my favorite thing really, but it is so important. So I started out tracking the results of my launches just by first tracking one thing. Like, I just wanted to measure at least one thing. And so I think that like anyone who's selling an online course for the first time, or even if they've sold many online courses before, figure out what that key metric is, and start there, track that consistently, and then work on adding in other metrics. Some metrics that I think are really important to track are, first of all, how many people are you selling to? What is your launch list? Keep in mind that this isn't going to be the entire size of your email list, or the entire size of your audience on social media, because most likely not all of those people are interested and they haven't really opted in to be sold to. So you can't really judge the success of your launch based on how many of those people converted. So instead, we want to look at how big is the launch audience or the launch list. Now, an example of this would be if you are using a webinar to sell your course, then you tell your entire list that this webinar is happening. Maybe you run Facebook ads to tell people that the webinar is happening, or you share it on social media, and then you have a certain number of people who have signed up for your webinar. That is your launch list or your launch audience. And so then if you have, say, 1,000 people sign up for your webinar and then you make 100 sales, then you could say, I have a 10% conversion rate because 10% of the people who signed up for the webinar bought. If you judge your conversion rate against your entire audience or your entire email list, you are going to feel like you are very much behind on the conversion rates. Like, your launches aren't performing very well, but it would simply be because you are launching to people who aren't necessarily interested in what you have to sell at all. So I would start with just those two numbers, like what is the size of your actual launch list? And then secondly, what is that conversion rate? And then build on from there. The more you launch, the more you will learn about launching, obviously, and the more you will just like get to know, like you'll discover things that you want to know. And you can build out a spreadsheet that tracks these different numbers. If you are evergreen launching, as we do, then you will want to track those numbers every week. If you are ongoing evergreen launching, or if you're running a launch that happens every month or something, you'll want to track those numbers every month. And that also gives you the opportunity to A/B test, which means you can change one thing in your launch process. Maybe change the title of your webinar, or change some of the content of your webinar, or change the price of your course, one thing at a time, and you'll be able to actually see the effect that has on your sales. Whereas if you aren't tracking those numbers and you aren't doing that analysis, then you'll make that change, and then you'll be relying on your gut to say whether or not that felt better, and just maybe the end sales number, whether or not it was more successful. But your end sales number might be bigger this time, but it might just be because you were launching to more people, but your conversion rate might have been worse than last time. And you won't know that unless you are tracking those numbers. So I would say to start tracking those two simple things and then build on from there. But make sure that you are regularly launching, because if you just do, say, one big launch a year, it will seem like so much work, and you won't be able to adjust and improve very much, because you really can only adjust and improve one thing in each part of the launch process each time you launch, if you want to be able to keep your data clean and be able to see what really caused the change in the results. So what I mean by that is, like, if you are trying to get leads to build up that launch list, then you can change your sales copy, or you could change the offer, or you could change whether you're running Facebook ads or YouTube ads or something like that. But you don't want to change all those things, because otherwise, if you do that, you won't have any idea which thing caused the increase or which thing causes the problem. And so for each different aspect of your launch process, you need to make sure you're only changing one thing.
Such great advice. And just to follow up on that, when you say increasing your launch frequency, how often should we be launching? And is this the same product?
I don't think it necessarily has to be the same product. Even if you're launching different products, you still will get a lot more launch practice under your belt, and you'll learn a lot through the process. But if you do launch the same product regularly, then you will be able to better optimize that launch and get better and better results there. As far as frequency, I don't think that there is like a set right answer that would be right for everyone, but I would say, like, at minimum once per quarter. And that if it was that infrequently, then you definitely would want it to be the same product if you want to be able to improve those results. Evergreen launching is a great way to go, although I completely agree with what Alana said earlier, that you do want to do live webinars at first, and do several live webinars, because you will learn so much through that process. But then you can take your webinar evergreen, and that's a really fun opportunity to be able to tweak one little thing, like tweak the headline or tweak a color in your webinar even. Tweaking these small things and then being able to measure the results without having to do webinar after webinar after webinar, which can take a lot of energy to do, right? And so if you can go evergreen, then that gives you that opportunity to optimize your results without wearing yourself out.
Great. That makes total sense. Because I think sometimes when people think, like, wait, how often should I be doing this? Is this like a twice a week thing? Like, should I be launching all the time? So I'm glad that you clarified that. All right. So some really great questions from the chat here. So I'm going to do my best to get through them. And just note that if your questions weren't answered, or you even just want to check out each of our panelists' work, we will be posting all of their links in the chat. All right. So there's a question here from Elena, and there's a lot of upvotes, I guess you could say, a lot of people that wanted to know your answers. If you could describe your signature method for your course in one sentence, how would you describe it? And Carl, I will start with you. So if you could describe your signature method for your course, how would you describe it?
In terms of signature method, I use email marketing. Is that what you're referring to?
I think it could be even just like when you're delivering the content to your students. Like, what is that your signature method for teaching them or helping them get to the outcome?
I use video, and I use case study.
Awesome. And Alana, if you could describe your signature method, and I'm going to leave it open, so however you want to interpret that, but your signature method for your courses, how do you describe that?
Yeah, I heard the question a little bit differently. So my answer would be that I help yoga teachers and spiritual leaders make more impact and income with their gifts.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And David, how would you describe your signature method?
I hope I understood the question, but I just want my students and everyone to learn fast and to have fun with their instrument. A lot of fun.
Awesome. Gillian?
Yeah, there are so many different ways this question could be interpreted, but what I would say about Startup Society is that, I don't know how to say this in one sentence exactly, but that we produce action plans, which are like micro mini online courses that the students can work through in 1 month. And the action plans, as the name implies, are very action oriented. So each action plan just has 12 steps that the student needs to work through to get a specific result.
Awesome. And Cara, I'm going to circle back to you if you want to kind of share how you're doing it, because I feel like, that doesn't sell your course as much with the impact that you're having.
Yeah. So I think that what I do is, as a classroom teacher and assistant principal in the past, is that I take very complicated, scary topics, especially when it comes to money and self-worth, and make women very excited and very much in control of their money through step-by-step guidance.
Love it.
And community and accountability. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, because I know all of our panelists, their courses. And so I'm like, I know what your impact is here. Fantastic. So really great questions here. Keep them coming in. And also, I think this is actually a great challenge, if you will, for everyone in the chat. And I've seen you already start to do this. But what is your signature method, or what do you think your signature method is going to be? I would love for you to type those into the chat so we can kind of see what everyone is up to. It's so interesting when we open these questions up to the chat. You think they'll go one way and they're completely in another direction. A lot of people want to know if there's any mentors or books that have really stood out to you in your career that you would recommend. And Cara, we'll come back to you with this one.
I would say I've read a lot of books. Alana talked a lot about webinars. I've taken several webinar classes because, based on my personality and the fact that I love to teach and I love, structure, but I also understand the importance of being able to reach people at their level. I find any course on webinars to the structure of the webinars and copywriting to be very important for success in marketing your courses. So there is, I've taken courses from Letitia Stiles, who is very much a part of like the webinar community. There is, everyone knows like the Ruffino, Russ Ruffino, I believe is his name. I'm a fan of him. But in general, in terms of mindset, I think books that help you really get clear about where you stand, your worth as an entrepreneur. You also have Marie Folio, who's like, awesome. And even Pat Flynn. I like a lot of his work in terms of just in general, how do you create, because when you're thinking about webinars and you're ultimately thinking about these courses, you're thinking about passive income after you've done all the front end work. So anything that helps you understand some of the misnomers around what passive income is, because it's not very passive in terms of the amount of work that you have to put into it, I would suggest anything around those content creators and thought leaders to touch on them to see where you can maybe find some places that resonate with you with their work.
Nice. Yeah. And Alana, for you, if there are any recommendations for maybe like one resource perhaps, or one book that you'd recommend to our coaches that are looking to kind of grow their online business and courses?
Well, I don't know that I have the best answer for this. I did most of the building of my courses 5 years ago when things were a little bit different and there wasn't necessarily a ton of resources. I bootstrapped a lot of the things that I did, figured it out on my own. And like I said a little bit earlier, my audience is unique. And many of the things that tend to work for online marketing don't necessarily work for my audience. I will say that once I grew my business to the point that it was actually passive income and things were actually working really well, and I was having students and a wonderful influx of people, and all my systems were evergreen. One book that I found very, very helpful was Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. I would highly recommend that those of you that get to that level in your business and are ready to step away from the day-to-day grind of what you're doing, that book has been just wonderful for me.
Awesome. Well, lots of recommendations here. So I hope for all of you that wanted to know the mentors and the questions, I hope that helps answer those questions. We do have a specific question here for David from Patricia, who's asking, how do you check with students if they perform the hand settings and rhythm properly after taking your course? And this is an interesting one for, I think, anyone that is doing something where there's a very specific technique. How do you manage that, David?
Sorry, I didn't hear properly the question. How do I check if they perform?
Yeah, so if you're teaching a technique, like where the hands are supposed to be placed, how do you know that they're actually doing it properly?
Yeah, this is where the community, this Facebook private group is very useful. So first of all, before teaching, I make sure I'm teaching a kid, like I'm making sure I told everything. I don't take for granted that they know this thing. No, I start from zero. And then if they ever have a problem, they can rely on the community. And in this community, every 2 weeks, I have something called Feedback Thursday. It's a post where you can just submit your video. And every 2 weeks, I take an hour, I listen everything, and I comment. And also, since this community, I have 2,600 students that are on Facebook, I rely on other people. And so they ask questions to each other. And so I have identified them. They are very good and they are kind of my moderators and they do the job for me. But I have a special spot for them where they put their video and they can make sure David will answer himself. So if you want your teacher to check what you're doing, this is the great spot. But first of all, it all starts within the video. I make sure that 99% of the people will make it.
That's a great point. I think like we almost take for granted our skills, right? We assume that something is straightforward and it is helpful. It's especially someone who has taken many courses. It is very reassuring when someone goes very slow and breaks things down so we can understand it. There's some questions earlier on around like feedback and kind of tweaking your framework or your curriculum. Gillian, when you are launching your courses, do you ever run what we know as like a beta launch, or are there any things that you do to improve the structure of your course for your next launch?
Yes, absolutely. So we're actually in the midst of a course launch right now. It's a brand new program that we're releasing that is about how to create good quality videos. So we have another course that's focused on like YouTube growth, but this one is all about like video production. And so we are doing a beta launch for it. And I think that there are so many ways that you can do a beta launch. It doesn't necessarily have to be small. It certainly doesn't have to be big, but I think that the main thing that makes a beta launch is that you are going into it with the intention to improve the program or improve the product as a result of what you learn through the beta launch. Now, of course, not everyone does that, but I would say that that is the most important thing to keep in mind, or if you want to like get the most out of your beta launch. So my intention with my beta launch is to get the program out there and to be able to get an initial group of students in it so that we can learn what's working, learn what's not, so we can improve the program, so we can learn how to better market it, because until you have some students in the program, it's really tough to know exactly why people are going to join and exactly what they're going to struggle with. Like I shared with Startup Society, we had thousands of people join the program, and then we discovered that a lot of them were in a place that we didn't think they would be in, or at least we didn't think so many of them would be in. So with this beta launch here that we're doing right now, we're welcoming this initial group in so that we can have a group of test students, so we can test the content on someone. And something that we're doing that is interesting and maybe a little bit counterintuitive is we are actually charging a higher price for the beta program than we are going to charge for the course in the future. The reason for this is, and the reason I say this is counterintuitive, is because a lot of people think, oh, I'll charge a lower amount for the beta because it's not quite ready, it's not quite perfect, it's not quite polished. I don't know if people really want this. I don't know if I can convince people to buy it, so I'll charge a much lower price. But we have definitely invested enough time and effort and energy into planning out the program and creating the program that I'm confident it is well worth the price. And with the beta launch, we are actually running it as kind of an accelerator program. So these beta students, we're not just charging them a higher price. They're going to get a lot more than future students will get. I'm going to be doing weekly coaching sessions with them. I'm going to be analyzing their videos. Some of the students are going to get one-on-one sessions with me, and we're just going to do a ton of hand-holding. So it is really going to be more of like a mastermind or accelerator type program. And then in the future, that won't be at least a strong component of the program. Of course, we're always there to support the students, but we're not going to be holding everyone's hand quite as tightly and analyzing everyone's results so closely. But we want to do this for the beta students so that we can get as much information from them as possible, so that we can market it better in the future, and so we can make the program better. And also so that we can get some really good results, and set the bar really high with this first class of students, so that then we can share those results with future potential students, and we can encourage them and inspire them to really make the best use of the program and to get good results. Because there's nothing worse than selling someone an online course and having them log in one time, watch a few lessons, and then never touch it again. And so having that initial success from these first students will give us a lot of material that we can use to inspire future students to actually make it through the program and to get some great results.
It's so true. And that's like the nice thing about online courses is that this isn't a book. This isn't where you put it out and then that is it. You better hope that this is like the best version it could be. You can constantly improve it. And in fact, you can use that to your advantage to grow your business as well. Thank you all so much for sharing all of these great little like tidbits of wisdom for launching your courses and crafting your curriculum the way that you have. And I'd love to know, as we always love to close out, there's a lot of people here who are coaches who have their offline businesses that are like, okay, I think that I'm ready to do this. I think I want to create my course, but like, what is that next step? What should that next step be? Or what words of advice would you give to people that are looking to finally take that offline business online? And Cara, we're going to start with you.
I think like the inspiration actually for 60 Days to Slay Sally Mae came from the feedback that I got from a speaking engagement. And so I would take what's happening in your coaching sessions that seem to be the most salient concern or salient problem, and finding a way to solve that problem. If there's several of them, then you can create a series of courses, or that course could have several sections that address those things. So what I would do is begin to look for feedback, or find the feedback, or pay attention to what is constantly being said, so you can begin to create a course around it. Because sometimes you have an idea about what you want your course to be, but a lot of the times, since you're trying to solve problems, you need to listen in a strategic way to the problems that are already being shared with you, and then being that source of the solution, and having your product or your course be the actual product that you can sell to help solve that problem. So I think for me, it's been a great journey to be able to be more of a strategic listener, because I had my own ideas about what I wanted to do in terms of creating content. But when you actually create surveys, you offer them opportunities to actually speak with you, you begin to really see what the problems are. Not what you think they are, but what they really are. And then you could begin to create content around it that solves it, and also allows you to replicate it. And they can be a part of the journey as well, in terms of giving you feedback for the next set of problems that you can possibly solve once the first set has been solved.
So good. And Alana, parting words of advice.
I'm going to give you the same advice that I received from my thesis advisor, which is finish. And I know as course creators, as educators, we overthink everything. We wonder, oh, should we put this in too? Should we take this out? What's it going to look like? Should I do more? Should I do less? There's a lot of mental process and chatter that goes into building an online course, but the best thing you can do is finish. Just get it done. And what I'm sure you'll be learning as a part of the Teachable Academy, and I know that I learned it when I went through the Teachable Academy, is that you don't actually have to have the entire course done before you launch. the value of just getting it out there, just getting your product out there, finishing that launch process, making sure that people have access to your stuff, it honestly, it's invaluable. It's the best thing that you can do, because that way your students can help you and teach you what they need to see next or what else you can do. But just get it done. Just get it done, get it out there. Your people, especially right now, they need you more than ever. They need your online content. They need access to that wisdom, that learning, that problem solving that really only you have.
Such great advice. I'm seeing a lot of people resonating with that message in the chat. Dave, for those people looking for the next step, what would you say to them?
I wrote a few things because I had two people before me. First of all, turn off your notification, turn off your TV, turn off everything, and start working. Think about what people want to know. Think about how to make them happy, how to make them saving time. Think about how to serve them. Be passionate. Love. Take a pen, take a paper, create kind of a robot portrait of the people you want to reach. Create a small curriculum, 4, 5, 6, 8 videos. Shoot, put online, and I really love the finish. Get this course done, even if you have $100 camera or whatever. Finish it, put it online, wait and see, send it to friends, but finish. I really love that. That's the one word. But just to finish with, be passionate. People, they want to feel it. They're not in front of you. You need to be passionate. If you're passionate, your product will be good.
So good. And final words, Miss Gillian.
Well, this kind of goes along with what everyone else has said, but there's this popular advice that said, or I don't know, quote that says, fail fast. And I think that can feel a little bit negative sometimes, and like we don't really want to try to fail. But I think the most practical way that we can do this and get the benefit of failing fast is by trying often and finishing often, because until you do something and you complete it, you can't analyze those results and figure out how to do better the next time. So just like earlier on when I was talking about launching frequently, you need to create an offer and you need to get it out there into the world. You need to actively tell people about it and get their reaction. And maybe they buy and maybe they don't, but you will learn something from the process either way. And if they do buy, then you'll get to learn from the process of teaching those people and working with them. And if they don't, then you just get up and try again. But in order to do that, I would say don't try to take on too much the very first time. Don't, just like was said before me, don't try to create a massive course. Start with just 6 to 8 videos or even less than that. When I finally started seeing success with selling online courses, it was when I decided to just do 1-hour-long workshops once a month and test different ideas that way. It allowed me to test a bunch of different ideas, to find some ideas that worked, and also to launch once every single month and learn through that process so that I could work myself up to selling bigger, more substantial products.
Thank you all so much for sharing this. It's been so great to see all of you watching this in the chat, just seeing all of your aha moments and just a lot of like, yep, this makes sense. I need to take action. So I really do hope that you do this, you follow through, you keep us posted with what you get up to. And just kind of in closing, I've been posting the links to all of our panelists in the chat. I highly recommend that you stay in touch with them, even just to see how they're doing what they're doing. I think it's really important that we learn from people, even in other industries as us. We understand and see like, oh, like this person is doing this way. This person is creating their videos or they're writing their emails like this. So we get even more ideas. So definitely check out what our panelists are doing, all of the incredible work. I know there's some questions about David and what the hand pan sounds like. So I know you have some great videos on your website. But in closing, perhaps in closing, we can have a short demo. I thank you all of our panelists, and then we'll close out with a short video. And I'll see you all at 8 p.m. Eastern for our final session of the summit with Nicole Walters. But in closing, as everyone is signing off, I'm going to share David who has his handpan ready. Thank you so much, guys.
Dude, I am a crier. Is this gonna make me cry?
I don't know.
Okay.
Nice headphones, by the way.
You can press play.
Hi Benny, this is Tiffany. I wanted to just say something nice about you real quick. I've always loved your videos because you help me to not be afraid to make mistakes.
Hi Benny, to me you teach bravery. Maintenant je parle français avec mes enfants, especially Frankie. She's going to learn French. And that is a wonderful thing. And I thank you so much.
Penny, surprise. To me, you teach moms that they're not alone on their parental journey.
So I thank you for Penny, for being Penny, and for being wonderful and helping us each through our own journey of our special needs kids.
Jessica, thank you so much for allowing me to have a better quality of life, and also thank you for teaching me how to be an advocate for other women. So because of your leadership and leading the way, I'm not going to get emotional, but I can reach out to people too.
Time you've put in, the work you've done, the research you've done, we can expand our studios and now welcome the youngest students, and that's because of the work you've done.
Nicole, I'm 60, and you've taught me so much about how to reach for higher heights.
Because of the example that you've been, I am finally ready to transition out of a career that I've been in for 10 years. I really owe a lot to you.
Hi Asad, my name is Javed. I don't know if you know me. So I'm from India, Mumbai, and without you knowing, you contributed towards my growth. I even won, the biggest talent show in my country, India, and I'm the first magician to do it. So I'm really thankful to your contribution. Keep doing what you do.
I'm speechless right now. I know of that guy, I've followed his journey, I've been super impressed, but I've never spoken to him directly before. So to hear that he actually learned from 52 cards, that's mind-boggling, that's awesome.
When I see pictures of their kids and their families, and being able to see that these are things that they're able to go and impact others, you just realize that the reach is so much further. And I know that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't decided to use courses and if I just stuck with one-to-one. And it's just a lot in a little bit of time.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I'm on the other side of this, but it was hard for me too. And I think that with most of the teachers on Teachable, they've gone through their own personal journey to get to where they are.
I grew up thinking that I was bad at language learning and that I didn't have the talent for it. And it's opened up a whole new world of possibilities to me. And I can see in their faces as they're telling me their stories that this is something that's truly been important to them and it's truly made an impact in their lives. And it's a privilege that I'm able to make that impact with other people.
Think about who do you want to help? I hadn't even met some of those people. I didn't even know what some of those people looked like.
I came into this just a mom who was really desperate to help her kid and then really wanted to share that information. You know that you're doing things for people, but then to see it all is